Hello YouTube vintage stereo collectors. Here's a couple components. They're fairly rare. Marsland M200 stereo amplifier, Marsland M400 stereo tuner. They're made in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada by Marsland Engineering. They're an aerospace company. They did make some audio components, some paging amplifiers, really good loudspeaker and loudspeaker crossovers, that type of thing. And this is really rare. I actually have the original manual for the amplifier, and on the back it shows a Marsland plant, which is just about 2 miles from my house here, and it's been torn down. There's some new buildings there, but it was on the edge of town in the country, and believe me, it's not on the edge of town anymore in Waterloo, Ontario. Talks a little bit about the company, and got something else here which is kind of interesting. It's a product, you know what, a dealer brochure, that type of thing. Shows the tuner and the amp in wood sleeves. We open this up. It has the specs for them and the original instruction sheet for the Marsland M400. And what was really rare at the time, it was bilingual, English and French, before Canada actually was bilingual. And story behind these, why I've got this stuff. In 1967, my dad decided he wanted to try his hand at component stereo, and a friend recommended these. They were made in Waterloo, and he bought them wholesale right from the front office of the factory on Weber Street. Brought them home. There's actually a pair of loudspeakers. They are wooden enclosures made by Canada Custom Cabinets. They were called the Le Petite series. I actually have them in storage. Don't really have the room to have them out here. This is kind of my workroom, furnace room. And so I've actually got a pair of Minimus 7s to test it out with. And my dad bought these. They eventually went into a custom wood enclosure with a dual turntable above it and a hinged lid, a dual 1010. And it was used for years. It was in my parents' house until it was sold, and they downsized in 2000. And it's been in storage a long time, and we've had some snow lately, and I was looking for something to do, and I thought, you know, I should bring those out, get them going. And this unit here, the amplifier, germanium transistors, it's all solid state, printed circuit board and some point-to-point in the back, a lot of Sprague capacitors, and most of them were dried out and open. A little bit of sound was getting through, but it was nothing great. So all the electrolytics, all the interstage have been replaced. Transistors and controls were fine, and it came to life. So I'm just going to warm it up here, which only takes 2 seconds. The tuner was a lot more work, I can tell you that. The stereo pilot light was coming on, but the sound was garbled, and it had a lot of small electrolytics on the board, used for coupling capacitors. It's changed all the electrolytics, and it was a very tweaky unit to align. There's 10 IF transformers in it. It actually has 2 IF strips, separate IF strips for AM and FM. The FM one was one of the tweakiest I've done in a long time. I got it right, got it working. The other thing I noticed about all the dial lights were out. They use those miniature bulbs. I think they're called wheat lamps. Some people use them on train sets, and they're different colors. And I just thought to myself, they're too hard to get. They were always burning out. I know this one was opened up a couple times over the years for new bulbs to be soldered in. So I actually used LEDs.
Take a load off Fanny. Take a load,
I just gotta move my antenna over here, get a clear signal. There we go.
and you put the load right on me.
That's the mono mode. It shows there's a stereo signal when you're mono. Flip it over to stereo. That's appropriate music. The other thing that was out of whack on it, the little tuning meter was stuck at the left position. Tried shaking it, even shot a little bit of contact cleaner in it, couldn't get it to move. And so I took the thing out, opened the case, it was glued together, and it was actually the material that was on the little rest for the needle was some type of rubber, and it had actually kind of broken down and melted around the end of the needle. So I took that off, just put a tiny little bit of contact cement on there to make a stop for it, let it dry, put it back together, works fine. Tell you a little bit about it. It does get AM. I can't get much down here because there's fluorescent lights, but it has great stereo now, picks up lots of stations. Very stable, doesn't drift either. The amplifier has phone, speaker, high filter, mode stereo, RIAA magnetic phono in, and it has a nice curve to it. Another great song. And it needs a little bit of bass boost for the Minimus 7s. This has that typical germanium transistor sound. It's a very crisp sounding amplifier. It does have good bass and everything, but it's a little bit maybe bright sounding for some ears. But I actually like it, especially like for rock and roll stuff. And vocals sound great on it. And you know, when you get older, you lose your high frequency, so it boosts them a bit in your hearing. But anyway, if you do an internet search, there's very few of these around. This is serial number 525, and that's 1276. There's only 4 placeholders for the serial number on each one. So they're low production. And they're actually, it's amazing, like, the thing weighs 11, 12 pounds. Which is kind of interesting. It's well-built stuff. Anyway, that's Marsland tuner and amplifier. Thanks for watching and listening.